Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered, this is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing. Prove me wrong, I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Hope y'all are doing well out there. I want to thank you guys, as always, for joining us each and every weekend round ye drag racing water cooler to talk all things drag racing, dive into all sorts of little nuances, crazy stories. We got a hell of a show for you guys today. Got my good buddy Nate Prater here from Streetcar Bragging Rights, fresh off a barn burner of a weekend out on the East Coast. And of course, I'm always joined by my squad, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson. What's up, boys? You doing well? I was trying to get on here and share the show so I can do my part to spread the gospel of drag.
I did my part.
Yeah, I was trying to do mine.
Now? Yeah, I did my part. What'd you think of your promo graphic there, Nate?
I really liked it. That's why I wore my chain. I wore every ring I own.
Oh, look at him. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep. I've had probably 25 people send it to me already. So
Jason Dunn thought it was me. I was like, no, that's Nate, man. He got a bigger beard than me.
It's too funny, dude. It's so funny that I'm on here like trying to share the show while doing the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
it's awkward.
It's pro level is what it is.
It's super awkward.
Yeah, it's super awkward. What's going on, guys? You doing well? I was just getting ready to tell you about going to the Jelly Roll show last night, and I want to tell this story because it's like got all these layers to it. So, anyways, as we were rolling, and I got to tell you, I don't like Jelly Roll's not like a frequent on my playlist, but I thought
it isn't mine.
A couple of the songs, you know, like I'm not against it, obviously, and I have really eclectic.
I haven't
music.
kept up with a bunch of them, but like that first one he had, what was it called? Dead Man Walking. Dead Man Walking. That was the first one I heard.
It's so anyways, my thought was, okay, so down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you've got to be like tuned in to like special, like certain times of the year, right? So like right now, the PBR, Pro Bull Riders, are in town, and it's like a week-long deal. They do events in Fort Worth. Last weekend, they have all sorts of activations and things going on this week, and then it culminates with the PBR event over in Dallas. I think it's at AT&T Stadium. I mean, it's a big event. But anyways, seems like there's always other stuff going on. The other thing that's happening this week is tomorrow night is the Country Music Awards in Frisco, just north of Dallas. And so, like, there's all these people in town, right? And so I told the wife, I said, hey, I think we should go to this Jelly Roll show. I love going to Billy Bob's. Like, it's no secret, the world's largest honky tonk. My affinity for drag racing honky tonks is rooted in my affinity for those.
I got somebody lucky there. I imagine by the end of the night. I taught somebody how to two-step there. Yeah.
Last October.
Yeah. Yep. His girlfriend appreciated it. I don't know if it's actually his girlfriend, but maybe now.
They're probably married with a kid on the way.
I would say
by now.
So. I mean, duh. After learning my dance moves, shit.
Hard to argue.
When you say you got somebody lucky, I didn't know where this was going.
Well, I was going to say something else, but
they might have to take a paternity test. I have to double check that. Double check that DNA.
I was sitting there before we went in to Billy Bob's that night, and somebody just runs into my hitch in the back of my truck. Remember that?
I forgot about that.
What the hell? I jump out and they speed off. I'm sure it hurt theirs a lot worse than it hurt mine. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. It's like the old trailer hitch to the shin. Oh, my God. You've got to be mindful of like racetracks in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. Everybody's got a full-size pickup truck with a gigantic hitch on it. But anyways, I love divey venues. You know what I mean? Like, and Billy Bob's isn't divey really at all. It's a pretty nice place, but it just has
rodeo
that
arena
feel about it. Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome joint, but I love small, intimate venues like that. And I always feel like every time I go to one of those events or different events, I learn something that we can later apply to the things that we do and in the drag racing space. But anyways, I told Alicia last night or a couple of days ago when we were buying tickets, I'm like, we need to go to this event because with all the stuff in town, there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be like some special guest or who knows who he'll bring out throughout the night. And so he did. He brought out like, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Noah Khan. He's got that song Dial Drunk. It's like a really, really, really good song. But anyways, they brought him out. Shabuzi, who's got that new like kind of drinking bar song. I think it's called A Bar Song. And then at the end of the night to close the show, but it's actually an awesome song. Yeah. And then he brought out Lainey Wilson to end the night, and it was like really, really cool. But it was amazing because as Alicia and I were walking up like this little back alley that leads to Billy Bob's, I see a bunch of people gathered around. And, you know, outside the back of a venue, I'm going, okay, something's about to pop off back here. Like there's somebody back here. There's something happening.
Depends on what city you're in. That you may want to avoid that.
Yeah, going to Chicago this weekend. Yeah. I don't know if you want to show up.
Don't do that in
Chicago. Venue in Chicago. Yeah. But in Fort Worth, you're front, back, it's all good. I actually have another story to tell you about Texas because all the seating inside the venue was like standing room only. So there's no like assigned seating whatsoever. And it was just so funny watching all these cowboys. Like if you were a female and you wanted to get to the front row or like to the stage, all you would have to do is tap the guy in front of you. Hey, can I squeeze by? And they're like, yes, ma'am, take off their hat. You know what I mean? And it was like Alicia and I were just laughing because we kept getting passed by people and we're all nice. Like we're all like, oh, hey, go ahead and walk right on past us and go move closer to the stage than we are currently, even though we know you're just basically asking to cut in front of us, you know, but no one's going to tell them no. Everybody there is wearing cowboy boots and Wranglers and their best pressed shirt or whatever. And it's just such an amazing thing. It's part of the reason I love living in Texas.
Wranglers make flex fit now too. Just throwing that out there.
I have to look into that. That's been keeping me away from the Wranglers until now.
I would tell you, once you wear flex fit, you don't ever go back.
It's the male version of yoga pants. Yep, is what it is. It's the male version of yoga pants. I mean, it's like I don't know that we look that good in them, you know, but they definitely are comfortable. We're definitely comfortable, you know. But anyways. No, go ahead, Nate, because I'm gonna.
I was saying I'll never wear regular jeans again. Once you go stretchy jeans, you don't go back.
No, dude. Every pair of jeans that I have in my closet, which really aren't that many, I wear like the same ones over and over and over. But I wash them, or my wife does. I actually don't even know how to turn on the washer and dryer. I'm a kept man. But anyways, I'm out here working for a living. You know what I'm saying? I need some help. I need a support system at home. I got one. I got a great one. Anyways, we're walking up the backside of Billy Bob's, right? All these people gathered around. We decide to pile in. And immediately, car guy shit, I see a black T-shirt that says LSX across the front of it. I'm like, this is my guy. I don't know who this dude is, but we're clearly friends. So we walk up. I say, hey, man, you a car guy? And, you know, clearly you're wearing like a Holly LSX shirt. So he's like, yeah. And I said, well, what the hell is going on back here? He's like, Jelly Roll is... He had a local builder in Texas build him like a square body, like a C10 Chevy pickup truck with an LS or LT4 or something, and I don't know. And like a cool looking, you know how big trucks are right now, all the square body craziness. Like everybody wants an old body style Chevy truck or like a C10, whatever. So they've got this truck, and I guess Jelly Roll finds builders, and they build these cars or trucks, and then they auction them off at Barrett-Jackson. And then they give the proceeds of the sale to a charity. So it's like a really cool deal. And so we walk up and I'm like, he explains that they're going to unveil this truck. I'm like, who's going to unveil it? He's like, the dude, he referred to him as Mr. Barrett or whatever, right? So I guess it was the guy Barrett from Barrett-Jackson and Jelly Roll. And I said, well, how long, you know, the show's supposed to start in like 30 minutes. Like, well, they're all in the smoke bus. And I guess Jelly Roll travels with a dedicated smoke bus, which I just
no wonder he's on my playlist.
Yeah, I gotta tip my cap to like I just thought about I told Alicia like we need at World Series moving forward a dedicated party bus. Like I don't know that I could go so far as to say
that's pretty much every bus we enter becomes that.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we have several dedicated party buses. But anyways,
park the truck next to it and start unloading.
It was super cool. Jelly Roll rolls out of the smoke bus and walks over and they pull the cover off this truck. And it was just a really cool moment. And you could see that it was like all these people piled around. But anyways, the show, I met like 2 or 3 different car guys and got connected with the dude who built the truck. And anyways, just a
so how
cool
many
thing
of those is he doing? Like you said, he's doing a bunch of them, or like in each city.
I don't know how many they're doing. I honestly don't know all the details of it, but I will tell you this, like apparently part of the reason he did the whole show or does some of these shows is they give the proceeds to charities. And I don't know, man, like just kind of thinking about just
say
entertainment.
Hi to Dayton real quick.
Hi, Dayton.
What's up, Dayton?
JT's daughter. Shouldn't you be in school?
Yeah, she should be.
Yeah. Anyways, different celebrities do it. I test Kid Rock did one. I just think that it's cool to see. And Nate, you guys do a fantastic job with giving back, like the Burnouts for Kids thing.
Yep.
And like we should talk about that. And I want to find, and maybe you can help us with this. Like, I don't know if we develop our own charity or if we partner with Draw or Drag Racing Association of Women or Racers for Christ or what it is. But we need to add some sort of, we really need to add some sort of charity component to what we're doing in Bradenton, because you know those plans are looking to rapidly expand in the coming months and years. And I think this deal's about, I mean, I'm really already very proud of what we've built down there in Bradenton, but I think the next phase of what we're going to do is
I've got a bunch of ideas for a burnout car. When me and you used to talk about it all the time, you know, I just
the smoke bus. We may have just named it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
The smoke. We need to get a short bus.
I could find. I had one. I could find another one.
You had a short bus. I know you rode on one. To school.
Right. Yeah.
I know.
I bought the one that Mike took to school.
Yeah.
And, you
I
know,
was a
sentimental
driver.
value to us.
I drove
It's like
it.
some classic memorabilia.
Whatever.
You know, you got to hang on to that type of stuff, right?
But,
Anyway,
we gotta get that.
We've a lot of stuff to cover here. I don't actually know where I was going with the jelly roll thing, just other than being perpetually reminded of what people expect in this day and age. Does that make sense? Like just knowing what people, especially the ticket buying public, and seeing Jelly Roll last night. I mean, I've been super emotional lately. I haven't told you guys about this, but for like the last 3 days, I don't know if I'm going through menopause or what exactly is happening, but like I've been like real.
This is nothing new.
Every time I turn around, I'm like welling up with tears. It's real weird. Like I cried 6 times.
You are a crier.
I'm a crier.
You've been hanging out with Ricky Smith doing interviews.
You know what? I get it. And I got to tell you, maybe we should take 2 or 3 hours right now and talk about Ricky Smith crying, because I get it, man.
He's the goat.
And it's
He's to go to that too. He could teach you how to really churn up those emotions when you get on the mic.
You know what?
Wes does a pretty good job himself. I mean, like,
I do.
you know,
I do.
I've got some pictures.
Here's the thing, man. You maybe don't get it, or like, you know, JT, what it is because you're an asshole, probably.
It is.
You know, no, I'm just joking.
It is. I mean, I see it and I'm like, oh, I got to get a picture. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It makes me mad, man.
I'll give you a hug after I take a picture. Shit.
Yeah, you.
And after I post it, make fun of you, but it's all good.
I do. I stay emotional. Like, and I think I was telling my wife, you know, I was filling out some paperwork recently, and I had to identify how long we've been in business. And I got to tell you, it was like a really impactful thing writing on a piece of paper that Drag Illustrated has existed for 18 years and 7 months. You know what I mean? Like my kids aren't 18 years old and I'm very invested in them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I think about all these relationships that I have because of Drag Illustrated and all these people that are in my life because of Drag Illustrated and because of drag racing. And like every meaningful relationship in my life, to be honest, is rooted in drag racing. And I think that that's where, like when Ricky Smith wells up and cries at every banquet or every top end interview, like I get it, man. This is our life. Like this is all we do. And I sometimes think that I struggle to connect with people, like so many people in our business in the drag racing world, they have other businesses, right? Like they've got like, hey, they go drag racing, but they've got a construction company. They've got a heavy equipment business. They've got a whatever, right? Car dealerships, the list goes on. And it's like you have a different relationship with drag racing when it's like your life's work. There's nothing else. There's no backup plan. There's no investments, no Bitcoin, no, you know what I mean? Like pot committed to drag racing. And it just, all this stuff means a lot. Like, does that, you know what I mean? Like it just, It's heavier than when, and like I said, I'm not trying to diminish anybody's relationship or how these different people kind of engage with the sport of drag racing, but it's But when it is your entire life and you are consumed by it every single day, wake up thinking about it, go to bed thinking about it, work on it every day. Like, there's not a moment in my life that goes by, whether I'm at the Mavs game, I'm taking notes, I'm, trying to steal ideas. I'm breaking out into tears when they do player introductions because I'm going, like, this is just so badass. I cried through the entire filming of WWE Monday Night Raw the other night. I went to WWE and it's just
does Alicia have like some estrogen powder or something, and you're mistaking it for your protein powder, and you're like drinking it every morning?
It's been tasting
that would be hilarious if that's
it's
really
been tasting weird. I mean, it really has. I got a new type of protein.
Was there a movie
powder,
where they
and
did that to somebody? They were giving them like extra estrogen.
There was. What movie
there
was
that? I don't know what it was.
Oh, isn't it
Longest Yard?
The Longest Yard.
Oh yeah.
The Longest Yard. He's crying all the time. I'm gonna have to go.
You're gonna have to go check that out.
I'm gonna have to check it out, or at least read the label. I'm not big on reading labels. You know what I mean? I normally look through and see how many carbs are in anything. Like, okay, 8 carbs, I'm good. 0 carbs, good. But I don't really pay attention to anything else. So maybe it says in like bold letters, packed full of estrogen. Do not congest if you're a man or whatever, or consume if you're a dude. It is though, and I don't know why I'm so emotional right now. Like, I'll probably start crying right here today.
Well, but talking about drag racing, I think that happens when it becomes your job, and I think that's like a catch-22. I think Nate could probably speak to that because you didn't really start with that, but you're headed that way and probably eyeball deep in it at this point where this is your career. So like, what's your thought on that as far as taking something that you love, your passion, and making it into a career? It can be a little bit of a catch-22.
No, absolutely. I think we're kind of crossing a bridge and have been crossing a bridge as of late to where 90% of my time is devoted to drag racing. Like Wes said, whether it is just going to a different event, a concert, I mean, I'm there, I'm thinking about what they're doing, what we can do to improve our race. What are they doing to pack the stands? Why aren't we packing the stands? What can we take from that? And I mean, it gets emotional. Definitely whenever you live it every single day and it's your absolute focus, just like Wes said, from waking up to going to sleep, it digs into you. I mean, it's I can't tell you how many times over the course of the last couple of years that, I mean, I've shed a tear or two for sure. I mean, it's looking around and seeing, what we've built. It definitely gets emotional.
You guys are all in too. I mean, I went to your Burnout for Kids deal back in, was that December? Yeah, December.
You're a judge.
And you just came out. Yep. And you just came off of Streetcar Bragging Rights. But, just from the time that I pulled in there, the staff, everyone, you've got literally have a red carpet rolled out for the VIP with like a bouncer booth, I guess you would say, to keep people in check there, a tent, VIP, food, the whole deal. I mean, it's top notch, and it's something that I don't think you expect for like what I would say a regional event or something that's a little bit off the beaten path at Carolina Dragway. It's kind of like bringing the big show mentality to what Wes would call a honky tonk, to a smaller deal. And it's so well done. And honestly, we even, I came back with ideas from your event and communicated them to our team for World Series of Pro Mod. And we're always kind of bouncing feedback, our team and your team. And of course we had you down there as well. And you guys are raising the bar. So
how many people do you have help you, Nate? Like family, friends, and
family and friends. It's such a large group at this point. I think between track staff and event staff for bragging rights last week, we probably had well over 70. And here's the catch that a lot of people don't know also. 85% of every employee that we had out that track slaving away for an entire week before, during, and after are unpaid. They're out there with the same mindset that we have, the same goal to build something bigger than, what it is that we're doing. So we've got a great group of people around us that are able to really kind of push forward with that.
And it's crazy how many, and I think about that all the time, especially I know something that's near and dear to your heart as well as ours is the media that exists in drag racing. And I try to I remember addressing, we had a really fantastic turnout of media members at both the Pro Superstar Shootout in February and World Series again in March. And you can't really express your gratitude to those folks enough, right? Because it's
Oh,
like
no.
I know how many of them are doing it out of their own pocket. There are guys out there that have, NC Promoter in the chat right now. I mean, this is a dude that has sponsorship support, but he did that, on a shoestring for a really, really, really long time, and in many ways likely still does, if you know anything about what it costs to travel all over creation and put yourself up and feed yourself and take care of your team. So I look at all these people in the drag racing media, all these content creators, like we need to thank them perpetually, like, because so much, like, that stuff helps so much. Like the old cliches, there's like no such thing as bad publicity. I mean, it's true. Like, you need these people posting photos. You need these folks, posting their videos and creating content and going live and all these different things to help you share the message, like help you can do a lot of it on your own, no doubt, but you need that extra reach. You need those other eyeballs that maybe aren't part of your community or aren't part of your circle of friends. So, I mean, what it does, it takes all that volunteer effort. I mean, we're in much the same boat. I mean, I've got guys, I've been blessed, and I've said that many times. Like, I may not be a rich man in traditional sense, but I am a wealthy individual when it comes to human resources. Like, I have some incredible people around me that I'm blessed to have, and people that believe in me, follow me through the gates of hell, and will do whatever is required. I mean, I think about like the guys I'm looking at right here, JT and Mike, but it's our entire team. I mean, everybody here, we've got like a dozen, well, I think we're almost about 20 people that are involved like on a regular basis with Drag Illustrated. And it's like, it takes all of them times 10. I mean, it takes everybody willing to wear every different hat to be Swiss Army knives.
Whenever you're away, when you take the show on the road, I guess you'd say, it's super hard because you don't have that support group that you have in your local town, or where all your family's from and your friends are from. If it was closer, you could get what 10 times the help probably.
Absolutely, man.
But it's not that way, and then you even got to be selective because, I mean, we all are working on a shoestring budget with these deals usually, and it's hard to, we know that we got people we can bring in to help, but that's another hotel room, that's meals, it's not cheap whatsoever.
It's really not, dude. So, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, Nate. Like, it takes especially in the early stages, right? Like, if you don't have that early on, everybody just pulling the same direction, it's hard as it is. But if you don't have that, everybody swimming the same way, everybody sharing the goal, everybody bought in, it's very difficult to be successful out here. So I feel you, man. It takes an army. What's your, like, looking through the lens, like looking back on Streetcar Bragging Rights 2024, like, this event has really taken on a life of its own in recent. I mean, what is this, the third year?
That was that was our third event.
Yeah, I mean, so like,
last weekend.
To think about how far it has come in such a short amount of time. Like, why don't you give me the origin story? Like, because I think the first time I heard your name, like, perhaps not everybody knows like the background of this. And Nate Prater, you and Ash Linton, like, you guys cooked up this idea to bring to kind of bring some high level production, high level competition, a different atmosphere to the streetcar style events that have existed. I remember the first person I was going to say that ever said your name to me was Ron Moen at Vengeance Racing. Ron's a good friend of mine. He's somebody at this point in time, I think I've known Ron for 10 years.
Been to Saudi Arabia with that guy.
Been to Saudi Arabia with Ron.
Funny story.
He saved the day on my Corvette. Like, I bought this twin turbo LS Corvette it's been, JT, what year was that when we went to San Antonio and bought that car?
Oh shit, I don't know, I'm horrible at dates.
Like,
yeah, I mean, it's been a long time ago.
I think.
Yeah, it's been a while ago.
Like,
I went down there, I bought this car the dude was going through and I'm my father's son, right? I'm a horse trader, so I'm always looking for a smoking deal or whatever. And this dude was, his tragedy became my opportunity, right? He was going through some tough times, needed to get rid of this car that he'd spent a ton of money on. So I go down, buy this thing like for 10 cents on the dollar, probably. JT and I haul it home or whatever. And it was moderately reliable, but it was I'm not going to say it was like a cobbled together deal, but it certainly wasn't like a Vengeance Racing or an Underground or LME down in Houston. I mean, it wasn't like a high level deal, right? So anyways, I had some trouble with the car and I ended up calling Ron at Vengeance. And I said, hey, listen, I know no shop likes to follow other people's work, right? Like, that's such a disastrous position to put yourself in as especially a high level shop, like a shop with an established brand, all that stuff. And he said, "Hey man, I'll take care of you. Bring that thing down here and we'll get it sorted out." And, and he did, man. I sent the car to Atlanta. Ron Moen and the guys at Vengeance went all through it, fixed everything that was wrong, did all new piping for the turbo system. Like, it just did a fantastic job. And when I got the thing back, it was the best. I had never had a car that was that reliable, that made that much power. Like, I was blown away by what they did. But anyways, Ron told me, he said, "Hey, Wes, this young man, Nate Prater, he's on to something. Like, he's got something cooking, and you need to pay attention to him." And one thing led to another. Nate, now you and I have gotten to be pretty good buddies, work together on a lot of different stuff. Not as much as I would like. I'd like for us to be even further aligned as the days and weeks and months go on. But anyways, and we do have, I believe, Brian Bohlander from Peak in the green room. So we'll bring Brian on here real quick. I guess before is that cool with you, Nate? We'll return to Street Car Bragging, right? Let's bring Brian on real quick. Brian, welcome to the Wes Buck Show. What's going on, man? We can tell where you're at.
Yeah, you got that lighting worked out.
There's nothing better than Wednesday at a drag strip, right?
Oh, bro.
Safety Safari's running in the background, getting it prepped. We're ready for an event. How about that? Here, I'll move. Dude. Check that. Check that view out.
There you go. Real quick, I want to just ask you, like, and I don't know this for fact, are you like a lifelong Chicago guy?
Yeah, I can tell you when they first broke ground to this. I'll give you a little quick backstory to this.
Please.
My uncle ran the batch plant at Gallagher that paved this racetrack and the track across the street. So, that's how ingrained in this place I am.
So how much did it mean to you when the NHRA made the bold decision to return to, do you say route or route? This is a great question. We'll go around the room.
Depends on where you're at. I don't care. You can call it either way.
Okay, I'm going to say Route 66. Yeah, Route 66. Right?
Yeah, it's got to be Route.
Route 53 right behind us here is the Mother Road. It was at one point Route 66. Runs here through town, goes up to Chicago, and as you know, goes all the way out to California. So this is on the Mother Road. Literally,
it's an amazing place, and like I remember going there. I think I went to Route 66 Raceway for the first time in 2004. I was just out of high school, like maybe 2000. When did it open, Brian?
98 was the first event.
Okay,
and
so
been here for just about every one of them.
All right, so 1998 was the first event. I graduated high school in 2002. I think it would have been my senior year right after. They had believe it or not, they had some sort of big event in the fall, and they booked in my dad, the group that my dad raced with at the time, called the Ozark Mountain Super Shifter, still near and dear to my heart. They're another one of the best kept secrets in drag racing, well known in the Midwest, a group of stick shift cars, high RPM, no electronics. Every car has to be manually shifted. They're all naturally aspirated, super awesome group of racers, and they tour around the Midwest putting on shows and being a part of shows. But they actually booked us in to be a part of a show, and I remember how like blown away we were. We were some backwoods redneck drag racers, and we're like, we're getting to race at Route 66 Raceway, and just rolling into the place. It's another one of those deals where you get real proud, right? Like, even if you're not at all like you have nothing to do with it, just to see a facility like that dedicated to drag racing is mind-blowing. I mean, stadium style seating, it's beautiful across the board. I mean, take us back to some of those early days. Like, what was your thoughts on when they were building a facility of that scale? I mean, what was your initial thought? Like, holy shit, I'm sure you're blown away that they're going to do this for a drag strip.
Well, yeah. And if you really think back to, let's go way back into history here. Chicago was the home of the funny car. You had Great Lakes, you had Oswego at that point, which is about 40 miles from here. You have what's now Byron, which was Rockford at the point. And then you had the beautiful US 30 drag strip in Gary, Indiana, in lovely Gary, Indiana. We'll just say that sarcastically. This was the circuit. You come race here 3, 4, 5 nights a week. And if you owned a funny car, your chassis builders, your body manufacturers, a lot of your painters, except for the West Coast guys, they were all here. So when you go look back at the history of this over the past 50 to 60 years, and then you fast forward to 98 when they opened this place. And it was just mind blowing to the racing community around here, because they've been, again, they go back to, barely 2-lane blacktops with gravel pit areas. And then they have this, first class state of the art facility here. So it really took it drag racing and elevated to a whole nother level when they opened the gates here. And if you look since then, Bristol's been redone. We have Charlotte that's been built. Las Vegas has been done. Sonoma's been redone. I mean, all the racetracks have put in a bunch of money and tried to bring up to this level as they move forward. So this was really the catalyst to take drag racing to the next level. Now, sure, you can go back to the 80s and you look at Texas Motorplex. Billy was probably ahead of his time, but prior to that, nobody had done this type of work. And after Billy did it, nobody did this type of work for about 10 years. So again, thinking about that, thinking about what this place is and what it means to the community, it's something pretty special. And again, we're a Chicago-based company. So the long and short is a year and a half ago, NHRA approached me and said, look, we know you're Chicago-based. We'd love to have an event back in Chicago. What do you think? Would you guys help us with that? And lo and behold, we worked out all the details, and we were the first ones to sign on a dotted line to bring this place back. So it means a lot to me personally, but from a business perspective, we're a family-run Chicago-based company. We're entrenched in this marketplace. This is our customer base that comes to this race. We know it. I've seen it for 25 years now, the demographics. It makes sense for us not only to be here, but to be the catalyst to bring this thing back and bring it back, hopefully in the future, to the greatness that it's had from the day it opened in 98.
How much
you guys are doing a lot of stuff there too this weekend? In addition to everything you just said, you're sponsoring Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, Elon Warner's new product with the fantasy gaming, and then also the whole the exhibition deal that Alex Taylor's doing, one of your peak ambassadors. So you guys are involved in more ways than just being a sponsor of the event.
So my day started this morning at 10 o'clock. I had the John Force Racing team up at our corporate headquarters for a meet and greet with all the employees. They're off doing media around Chicago for the next 48 hours. I mean, they're everywhere. All the local media stations, local sports stations, getting the word out to get fans to come out over the course of the weekend. From there, obviously, I'm here with you guys here this afternoon. Yeah. And then when you look at it from here tomorrow, I've got customers coming out for a race, which NHRA does a really cool job where you bring in 32 of your customers and they get to drag race against each other. And there's no better way to expose people to sport than actually throw them out there and let them experience it. I've done a lot in a corporate environment over almost 30 years now. That is the coolest experience. And I have more compliments from our customers about that than anything else that I do. They walk out there and they go, oh, I get it. And then I remind them, I said, by the way, your 60-foot time, Force has already gone to the 8th mile. So that puts it into perspective for them.
And that's an important thing, right? Like we talk about that a lot, and I'm curious, Nate, like, do you run into that? Like, because I know that we're just talking about a track that's been around since 1998, and it's had highs and lows over the course of that time. But I'm just curious, like, what do you pull from that? Like hearing that Brian Bohlander, like for those that don't know, is driving the bus across the board for Peak's involvement in motorsports and has for 20 plus years. And it's like, what do you hear in that, Nate? Because like, I don't know about you, but I'm immediately going, all right, Thursday at World Series, we're having a 32 car shootout for our sponsors and their customers. You know what I mean? Like, is that kind of the way you interpret that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's one thing that, we're obviously talking about bringing Drag and Drive, the NHRA, bringing Alex Taylor and stuff like that. There's a lot more that can be done at these events other than just what classes are drag racing that day. And that's something I think everybody has to really focus on. It's a race, but there needs to be a show presence. We've got to do things that are going to get people in the stands. We got to get the younger generation to really look into this sport and want to be a part of it whenever they get older.
Brian, do you feel like how important is the Drag and Drive exhibition? Because I see that as one of the hottest segments of the drag racing industry right now. Like, matter of fact, we've actually had concerns that like, holy crap, is this getting too hot too fast? Like, is it evolving too quick? Like, because there's so much of it all of a sudden, but it seems to be handling it quite well. I mean, every time I turn around, Tom Bailey, Luke, and the whole gang at Sick Week are launching another deal or doing another variation of Sick Week that was built in Florida, essentially. I'm just curious, how important is that? I mean, obviously Alex Taylor has become this large presence in the sport of drag racing. But like, what do you make of that, and how important was that to you personally, being connected to the drag and drive world the way you are? Like to bring that in, because I know this isn't the first year, they did it last year as well, but continuing that movement. What's your take on that, Brian?
Let's take it two branches. Okay, so let's take it down the business side, the customer perspective. When you go to a drag strip on a Wednesday afternoon, there's 5,000 to 6,000 people standing there that are your customer. That's why you're there and why you have to play. Now, looking at it from the sports perspective, let's go back to the foundation of really drag racing. Drag racing came from a movement, at least organized drag racing came from the movement of getting people off the streets and putting them in organized tracks. Okay, so you fast forward to what's happened over the years, we've almost priced ourselves out of the sport because of all the costs it take to get involved in this. A truck and a trailer, which again, let's be honest, they all have trucks and trailers to get to and from, but the actual week when you do the event, you have to drive from point A to point B. It takes you back to the original days of drag racing where you had a street car, you modified it, you got it, up to a competitive level, and you took it out to the track for bragging rights. And that's essentially what the drag and drive movement has done. Here's the thing I find interesting. Going to a drag and drive event, coming to a national event, the fan base is similar, but they're different people. And if those two worlds can collide with one another, everybody in this sport wins. And I think we ought to look at it. We know the customer base is right, but we know that there's subsegments of it. And the more that we can marry this together, the better it is for the sport, better it is for our brand, and the more reason we have to stay here for the long term, right? So that's how I look at it, is there is tremendous upside. I don't think this got too big too fast. If anything, we've got to figure out how to take that lightning in a bottle and expand it a little bit more so we can get more people involved. Because the more people we get involved in the sport, the better off this is going to be for the long term for everybody.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like it's something that we've seen like historically throughout drag racing, is where things just they ramp up so quickly. And you like you said, how do we harness this and like keep that momentum and build upon it instead of letting it get, because what I feel like I see in drag racing, and it's one of the issues, I mean, it's largely the reason the Pro Superstar Shootout existed, and the whole reason we wanted to bring this group of people together and get them all working together, kind of headed in the same direction with a common goal. Because what happens is everybody, I mean, what I've seen happen is you have like Hot Rod Drag Week is the original deal, right? And that's where so much of this movement started, right? All of it, actually. And then, there starts to become all these offshoots, and people have to make decisions. They can only support so many events, and they only have so much resources. They only have so many days off work, whatever, that they have to. And so you start to think about, okay, how many of these things can sustain over the course of time, and what can we do to keep pouring fuel on that fire? So while they do continue to grow, and there's more events, there's more places to race, there's inventory to support all those different things. Because I'm with you, like there's a real lightning in a bottle thing happening with the drag and drive movement. It's so authentic. Guys that are working on their own stuff, driving their own stuff. It is the heart and soul of this community in so many ways. I mean, if you had to like paint a picture of where drag racing comes from and what this group of people are about, look no further than the pits at a drag and drive event. Like these are guys that car breaks down. It's not Collin Proline. You know what I mean? It's not, sending it back to the hub dyno to sort things out. It's fixing it on the side of the road.
Or a lot of times not fixing it. I mean, we saw that when we went to the drag and drive. It's just like, hey, I don't have enough parts. This thing's too wounded or whatever, and I'm done, and having to bow out. I mean, that's something you really don't see a lot at drag races either. Normally, we're fixing something, but that's such a grueling deal, and really full of stars too. I mean, you talk about Alex Taylor. She was just at the Capitol this past week doing the deal for SEMA, and then goes right to Chicago this weekend. I mean, she's staying busy, keeping herself out there, not only as an ambassador for drag and drive, but for the sport as a whole, for female racers and for Peak, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, she's here. Tom Bailey's been great as well. I mean, he's been a great partner with the whole Sick Magazine program. His team, I've known Jenny Schmitz for, I don't want to count how many years, but all the stuff that we did together back in the Hot Rod days and a Power Tour, that, he's got the right people. And if anybody has the opportunity, he's got the catalyst to scale this thing. It's just, I don't think Tom has enough bandwidth to take this thing where it could really go, but he's got the right people in line to be able to do it. So,
100%.
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, it's exciting to have them out here, and we know they brought fans. We stood at the ropes last year at Alex's pit and had people come up and say, Alex, we're here because of you. We would never come to this event, but now we're here. It's pretty cool that we're here. We all win by doing that. So as a sport, we have to keep thinking about that and get out of our silos and understand the more that we can collaborate, the better it is for everybody. Because at the end of the day, if there aren't bodies in the seats, I can't justify being here.
Yeah, I mean, and I tell you, you hit on something, and Nate, I want to get your opinion on this because I think you and I and like Streetcar Bragging Rights and Drag Illustrated and like everybody, and there's a fantastic, we need to give Brian his flowers here because it's like that. I say this a lot, and I think it's important that people hear it because obviously there's a spirit of competition that is largely unparalleled in drag racing. However, collaboration happens at the top. Competition happens at the bottom. And I mean, I think it's important that these sanctions, series, tracks, we've got to see a bigger picture. And what's good for NHRA is likely good for Tom Bailey and Sick Week. What's good for Sick Week is likely good for Streetcar Bragging Rights and World Series of Pro Mod, and the list goes on. Like, we've got to think, it's like a scarcity mindset that I think kind of permeates society in a lot of ways right now, is that everybody, their sponsor is the last sponsor they're ever going to get. So they got to hold on to it with dear life, and they can't let anybody come around them. I mean, I've literally been around race teams that have sponsors that wouldn't let the guy leave their pit because they were so afraid of someone else getting a hook in him. Right. And it's cool for me to see someone such as yourself, like at where you're at in this industry, Brian, that has relationships that span the entire sport, from the drag and drive groups all the way to John Force. Like, there's no bigger name in drag racing than John Force, and he proudly wears Peak on his shirt.
Well, let's think about the whole ecosystem, Wes. I mean, you look at it, obviously you've got your sanctioning body, you got your racers, and that's what drives fans here. If the fans aren't the right people for us to buy our products, then we don't need to be here. Now, we are here because we know they are the right great group, right? So the question is, how do you give everybody their value? How do you give the racers the opportunity to be promoted and tell their story? Because people want to hear about their stories. They don't necessarily, hate saying they don't care about the racing, but that's only one piece of the bigger puzzle. They want to hear about the stories. From a company side, for us, it's about being authentic. And it's about being authentic to the set. We want those people in the grandstands to be ecstatic, the fact that, hey, Pete brought us Drag and Drive. Hey, I don't know if this is common knowledge, so I'll spill it anyway, but this weekend, for every racer that's entered for the race and every RVer, we gave them a coupon. If they come by our display this weekend, they get a free 2.5 gallon product of our Blue Def. I mean, all these guys got diesel trucks, right? And I know they complain all the time about they got to use it. Okay, but understand, we don't make the rules, the government does. We make the best product that you possibly can have, and our job is to make sure you guys stay on the road, stay happy, and that's what we're here to do. So again, it's about the whole ecosystem. It's about, how do we keep everybody happy? Let's keep the fans happy. Let's keep the racers happy. You know, you got names like Force. This is the first weekend that John and Brittany, in the entire time that we've sponsored John Force Racing since 2014, have both run peak cars at the same time and ran matching paint schemes. So you've got that layered on top. I've got 150 employees coming out on Friday. I've got 20 employees that either have been handpicked or have volunteered to help pull this whole thing together over the weekend. When you add it up, I got 375 people between customers, employees, and other things that are going on over the course of the next 4 days here. And I wouldn't trade it for a world, because they're all going to walk out of here with a smile on their face, and they're going to be proud of what they're doing. Oh, and on top of that, Brittany's car has every employee of Old World Industries, our parent company's, name on it. So now they got equity in this thing, because they're riding along with Brittany Force to victory, hopefully on Sunday.
Dude, what a deal. How much planning, one of the things that Nate and we started the show talking about is just how many people it takes, like to pull this stuff off, volunteers, to, paid team members. It takes so many customers, all these people. What is planning for the peak Route 66 Nationals look like for you to get 375 people organized over the course of the next 4 days?
It started about 360 days ago. So we got through last year. We took Monday and Tuesday and caught our breath and pat ourselves on the back. And Wednesday said, all right, if we're going to do this again, here's what we change and make it even bigger and better for next year. I mean, from my standpoint, the hardcore planning has probably been for the past 120 days or so. But I mean, we already had an idea of things that we wanted to add or supplement on this thing almost a year ago when we walked out of here last year.
What do you make of the NHRA's like willingness to go to that event with their own crew. Cause that's one thing that I don't know that people totally understand is that, Route 66 Raceway in its current form, as far as the drag strip is concerned, is kind of a skeleton operation. So this is one of all of us that exist that are like traveling promoters or outside promoters. We benefit by being able to partner with a facility or partner with an existing organization, right, that handles a lot of the infrastructure, parking cars, manning the tower, and it's silly things, water box, ticket booth, all these things you don't always think about, where you got to have a human body. How crazy is it the way the NHRA, because there was a lot of concern, like, hey, it's a big bite to roll in with a complete outside group, nobody that lives here, nobody that's here all the time, and come in and figure out how everything works, figure out where all the light switches are. All those things, like, I'm blown away by it. And I think the NHRA deserves a lot of kudos. They're like drag racing's favorite punching bag in so many regards. But the truth of the matter is that nobody really does it much better than they do, especially on that event organization and operation front. It's pretty impressive that they roll in there and take it and do it all themselves.
I'm glad you said that because we all read the forums and we read, the armchair quarterbacks that
you dated yourself with that 50, forum. Yeah, comment. Yeah.
Everything was better 50, 60 years ago. We don't know what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. You've put on events. You know how hard it is. They don't get enough credit for, if you look at an NHRA probably has 25 core people plus safety safari, plus people they bring in to run this event. And it comes off without a hitch because they run facilities. They run Gainesville. They run Indianapolis. They run Pomona. So they know what they're doing as far as that goes. It's just a matter of taking that recipe and moving that show to another location. Biggest challenge they're fighting right here is weather. It rained yesterday. It rained Monday. There's a chance there might be rain overnight on Thursday. Friday, looking pretty good at this point. If anything, it's overnight. Saturday, Sunday look phenomenal. Now, if you're safety safari, you're sitting there pulling your hair out going, nobody's run on this racetrack in 360 days. We got to have this thing prepped. If it rains, what's that going to do to what we do? And the fans in the stands, all they sit there and go, okay, what are we down for now? Where these guys really understand, and maybe I'm too close to it because I spend time with track specialists and I hear all the intricacies that go into what goes on out there. They don't get nearly enough credit for everything they do to pull this thing together. And, kudos to the track ownership that says, okay, here's the keys for the weekend. You go do your thing. And at least they're not roadblocks and they let NHRA do what NHRA knows how to do best. So I'm anticipating there's going to be 25 to 30,000 people here a day. And when you think about that from a perspective of our sport, everybody thinks our sport's small potatoes. But if you look around the Chicago market, Wrigley Field holds 45,000 people. 30,000 people to come out to watch a drag race. That's pretty impactful for what we're doing and what this market has potential for and how important this sport is to this market.
You gave me chills because I so frequently remind myself of that. Like, everybody knows I'm a big combat sports fan, watch all these UFC fights and whatnot. And I'm a big NBA fan. It's like American Airlines holds 18,000. You know what I mean? And it's like NBA, it's not like they're going to these places. I was talking to a friend earlier in the week that said there was 150,000 people at the Formula One race at COTA at the Circuit of the Americas last October, and they're anticipating a similar crowd this year. Like, racing is a bigger deal than I think we oftentimes realize. Like, Alex Taylor actually made a fantastic post, and we won't keep you much longer, Brian. I appreciate your willingness to chat this afternoon. I know you probably got more important things to be doing, but I do think it's important to bring this post up. It was actually Megan Taylor made this post, and she said, I'm so amazed by the random statistics I've learned while they were in Washington with SEMA and PRI. And it said, especially the fact that the automotive specialty equipment industry employs more people than the entire motion picture and video production industry, the beverage industry, the candy industry, the wine industry, and is nearly as big as the beer industry, and has a $337 billion annual economic impact that supports more than 1.3 million American jobs. Like, how important is it to hear that? Like, to recognize how big this community really is and how many people are impacted or engaged with motorsports or the automotive aftermarket.
You could say it, Wes, infected, because a lot of us are infected with this. This is a disease that doesn't go away. And that's a great thing when you really think about it. Yeah, I think it is important to stress that, because I don't think people really understand the magnitude of the automotive industry. Not only the automotive industry from the manufacturer and the replacement part, but from the performance aftermarket. If you look at SEMA, and I say this as chair-elect at MPMC, which is the Motorsports Parts Manufacturers Council, there is nothing at a SEMA show that you have to have. Everything you go there to buy is because you want to buy and you're passionate about the sport. And when you put that in perspective, $300 billion business is what this is. Think about that for a second.
I mean, it's amazing. I used to remember my favorite. I told this story about, I grew up in my dad's auto repair shop. Mike and I have a very similar upbringing, that both of our dads own Napa Auto Parts Centers and have for 40 years, right? Our dads went into business for themselves about the same time. We both grew up behind the counter at the shop, or in the garage at the shop. And I remember this really impactful thing that happened to me. And I could give you 1,000 examples of this, but you would have people come into Buck Brothers Sunny Slope Automotive in Kirksville, Missouri, and find out the same customer comes in on Tuesday, right, and finds out that he's got to spend $200 to put front brake pads on his car, and he's pissed because he needs them, right? Oh, I got to put brakes on it? Son of a bitch. Okay, how much is that going to be? Well, do they got anything cheaper? I don't really care about what brakes are on it. That same dude comes in on Friday and wants a set of 22-inch wheels, and they're $6,000, and he's throwing the money at you. And it just shows you the difference between something you need and something you want.
Absolutely.
Right? And you're talking about $337 billion of want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, they send out those emails. We get them from Juan Torres at SEMA, and they've got those numbers in it. You almost have to just do a double take when you read it. It's like, where are they getting these numbers from? This has to be inflated. This can't be right. But it is. I mean, when you start breaking down, like from Megan's post, how that number gets built, it starts to make a lot of sense. And the number is accurate, and the impact of it when we go to represent ourselves to government agencies and the EPA and all these things, that comes into consideration. And motorsports and automotive aftermarket is very powerful.
Well, Brian,
we could go down a whole rabbit hole with this.
Yeah, I mean, we could.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you guys.
Go ahead. I don't want to keep you, man. Thank you so much for everything you're doing, dude. Yeah, please.
Yeah. I just want to wrap up with a couple other things. You guys mentioned Drag Race Bracket Bonanza this weekend, so we're helping Elon out with that program to get it up and running. Presenting sponsor this weekend. Big reason we're doing that is all of you John Force fans out there, we're actually running a sweepstakes right now where you have a chance to have your name on John Force's car in Pomona. And of the 250 winners that get picked, one of them is actually going to get flown to Pomona to go watch the race and be part of John Force Racing for the weekend. So if you go to dragracebracketbonanza.com, you'll see all the information on how you can register for that. If you're at the track, come on by to our display. You can register there. And if nothing else, put your brackets in. Let's help Elon get this thing growing and get this thing going here. And hopefully you pick Pete cars to win both Top Fuel and Funny Car this weekend.
I'll go ahead and lock in my pick now. I'm gonna pick old John to do it again. I think it'd be fun to see him win. He needs to win. It'd be a great thing to see. I've been blown away by the way he has just weathered every storm and always remains a threat. But I was curious, could we run a real quick new sweepstakes with just me entered in it? But I want to drive John's car. We should run a completely new sweepstakes, announce it, put out a press release.
It's going to take Brian some more work. You have to give him some time to put that one together.
Okay, let's get that knocked out.
I'll let you in on a secret. I'm going to most likely have a special guest warm up a John Force car this weekend. It took an act of Congress to get that done. So sorry, Wes. I don't know if that one's going to come together.
Okay, well,
Wes is going to be there.
More to come.
I'll be there.
Wes is going to be there. He's coming there with bells on. So maybe if that person doesn't show up or you need a replacement.
I'm here for warming up fuel cars. Scott Palmer let me warm his up, and that was a life-changing experience. Like I told people, you don't have any idea how violent those vehicles are, even at idle. Like it'll take your breath away, dude. Well, Brian, thank you so much, brother. Congratulations on all you're doing and all you've achieved. And I can't wait to see what comes next. And as always, man, we appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Guys, I appreciate you having me on today. Like I said, hopefully, I think you guys are coming out at some point this weekend, are you?
I'll be there all day Saturday and Sunday.
Great.
Yep.
Then come find me. We'll connect.
Sounds like a plan, buddy. Thank you,
all right.
Brian.
Thanks,
those
Brian.
of you in Chicago Market, Route 66 Raceway all weekend, be here. Come on, baby.
We'll be there, brother.
All right.
My goodness,
Thanks,
guys. Real
everybody.
quick, I do want to take a quick moment and remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety, manufacturers of 100% made in America drag racing safety equipment. They are the guys that are laying awake at night, much like us, thinking about drag racing. They're thinking about how to keep drag racers safe. So make sure you log on to StroudSafety.com today and support those that support us. Huge shout out to Tommy and Anita Cunningham. It was great to see Tommy back behind the wheel at the Midwest Drag Racing Series event this past weekend in Tulsa. Hell of a crowd, hell of a performance across the board. So anyways, great to see Tommy racing. He hasn't been out since World Series, so I'm anxious to see what's next. It's great to see him at the racetrack. Nate, let's we've got Collin Thomas in the green room, so we'll bring him, but I want to talk about some burnouts because across the board, like Nate, you've built an entire event around burnouts, and I want to talk some about your origin story and how all this came to be. But let's start with burnouts for kids before we bring Collin on, because what was the genesis of Burnout for Kids and the way this whole thing came? Because burnouts, like that's been a scene in Australia for a long time, right? But it's like coming on strong here in America, and the way you guys did it at streetcar bragging, right, or excuse me, Burnouts for Kids is different than the pit version that we're seeing at like Cletus and Cars and Holly LS Fest, etc. But what's your kind of take on that scene, and how did it come to be?
So with streetcar bragging rights, we wanted something that was going to be a charity event. We wanted to try to figure out something that we could put into it. So we actually, the year before, we had a burnout competition at my shop during one of our car meets. We did this with, I think it was about 12 different entries. There was a $1,000 payout, and we were raising money for Toys for Tots at the time. That first year we accumulated, I think it was about $13,000 when it was all said and done. That right there, when we were able to go buy all the toys, donate the toys for Toys for Tots, it was definitely something we wanted to build upon. We didn't have any real strategy with the burnout competition. It was basically over here on the side of my shop. We enclosed a little area that we got donated some concrete jersey barriers. We put them into place and had a fireworks show and all that stuff. But when it was all said and done, we just let the crowd vote. The last couple of years, we've built upon that. We've put more of a judging system in place. We brought in first year 6 celebrity judges. Last year we brought in 10, including obviously Mike Carpenter, who was there joining us.
That's 9 celebrities then plus me.
So 9 celebrity judges and Mike Carpenter.
Dude, that was so much fun too, man. And it was talking about the judging. I wasn't prepared for how serious this was. Like, and I mean the whole structure that you had in place and the system. And then they were like, I remember after the first couple, we're trying to like get our bearings on how to judge this. Cause I mean, we're throwing up 10s like the first couple. And I think Nate or someone said, hey guys, like these guys take this really seriously. So make sure you're like really judging accurately. Like here's some things to look at, like length of the burnout. Did they complete it all the way? Was it like speed, violent, all these things, sound, all these smoke, the amount of smoke, or the amount of times you get hit in the face with a piece of tire, which I was judging based off of that. But it's very serious, and a lot of these guys have purpose-built vehicles for this, which our next guest is one of those guys. But I was blown away by it. It was a ton of fun, and super impressed by what you did. The fireworks show, everything. It was well attended. Everyone there was just having a blast.
Yeah, I think that was kind of one of the big differences between year 1 and 2 versus year 3 of it, which obviously you attended, was we started to understand that the guys that compete in these competitions, it is their own world. It is not just, something that a lot of them, they do for more than just fun. These are purpose-built vehicles. They travel the country. They invest just as much time into it as, a drag racer would in their drag racing program. So we really felt the need that we needed to step up this year as far as giving them a platform. Obviously there's more. Skids for Kids has partnered up with Streetcar Takeover here recently, and they're running a few of them across the country, which is awesome. Cletus does his burnout competitions. And I think one thing that we've kind of had talks with a lot of these guys about is there really needs to be a uniform judging procedure. There needs to be something that's more in line across the board as these vehicles, these guys invest more money into them. They want to make sure that they're getting judged the same way wherever they go. I do think one of the big things for this charity event last year, and again, until somebody corrects me, and I could be wrong about this, we gave out $10,001 for the winner. And I think that is, as of right now, still the highest paying burnout competition that there has been, at least in the U.S.
No shit. I didn't realize you guys paid 10 grand to win the deal.
Yeah, it's serious.
$10,001.
Yeah, big money behind it. I mean, these cars are no joke. They've got a lot of money invested in making these things, burnout ready. So let's bring on our next guest.
Let's do this because I've actually been talking to Collin. Collin is a video producer as well, and he's worked with Drag Illustrated in the past. And he reached out a week or two ago, and we were just shooting texts back and forth. And he was sending me these videos and pictures of like this crazy LS blown. It's got an 871 blower on it, and it's a dedicated, purpose-built burnout car. And he's like, hey man, this deal is like gaining steam in a hurry. And he started to tell me, and I saw the little dots pop up that he was sending me a message. And I said, hey, stop. I want to find out more about this on the show because I want to hear it from you the first time when we're live in front of the world. So ladies and gentlemen, Collin Thomas, what's up, buddy?
How's it going? What a lead up. Appreciate it.
A 15-minute lead in. That's how we like to roll.
Texas's own Collin Thomas, man. Thank you, for reaching out. Like I tell people all the time, like one thing that Brian Bohlander mentioned a moment ago was that everybody's got a story. I mean, that's the whole origin of Drag Illustrated. That was the reason we started this magazine. And the reason we started this business is because we recognize that everybody's got a story. Like the cars are great, but the cars bring us out, but the people are what bring us back. And we felt an obligation, like a duty to tell the stories of these men and women that make this community what it is. Because like, again, the cars, the competition, the speed, the sights, the sounds, all of that's obviously very important, but I feel it's secondary to this community of folks. So Collin, I'm glad to have you on here and have the opportunity to tell a little bit of your story. Real quick, like what got the hook in you for this burnout thing? Like you didn't dive right in with a purpose-built car, I'm assuming. Like maybe was there steps? Maybe you did.
There is a lot of steps. There's been about 4 renditions of my rat rod that I call Helen. So I'm a big drag racer fan. I've been doing the drag racing since I was a kid. I was a junior dragster racer. My dad I've been raised exactly like you were just talking about in the shop with my dad. He's a mechanic. So you just kind of get thrown to the fire doing all that stuff. And me and him started building this rat rod when I was like 10 years old. So it just was very, very grassroots. Had a small block Chevy, turbo 400, just your run of the mill everyday stuff, right? And you guys mentioned Cletus and cars. They came to Houston a bunch, and I came down to Houston to go to school for building engines and stuff like that. So I love going to the events. I mean, I never thought I would get into burnouts. I've always been a drag racer at heart, and after watching these guys do the burnouts, I'm like, this is pretty cool. So I went to one of the events, ended up taking Houston Raceway down. So that really put a hole in my sail for doing the burnout stuff. But then I enjoyed it so much that I ended up just kind of building up the rat rod even more, put some turbos on the small block, and started going over to Florida, over to Cletus's place, went over to Indianapolis. Last year was the biggest year of traveling by far. I went all the way to Arizona, Bowling Green, Tennessee, Florida, and I wanted to go to the Burnouts for Kids event. I was literally getting ready to go, but the event the weekend before, we just blew the whole motor up. And I'm only 24. I can only afford to build so much stuff. So that took us out, unfortunately. But I do plan on being there this year for the event that he puts on.
Do you think that are you surprised, like the momentum? I mean, we were just talking about like drag and drive, and it's crazy that like all these segments of our sport seem to be having like like real explosive growth right now. But like when you sent me the pictures of your build, Collin, like I was really blown away. Like I watched the whole, like you sent me a link to a YouTube video, and if you haven't seen it, you should check out Collin's YouTube channel. I watched this. I mean, it was like a well-produced hour-long video that kind of tells the whole tale of the way this your car has come to be. And the things that I was taking away from it that I think people would be blown away by was like listening to you talk about the effort and the thought that went into the valve train.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I was just going, you know, my people will appreciate this. Like, this is not
Right.
some slam stuff together. It's like you're worried about floating the valves, and you're, you know, trying a bigger valve because of that, and a different valve spring. And so take us through like some of the nuances of like building a car. Like you said, some of these Burnout vehicles start out as just like a modified street car or slightly built up street car, but now you have people that are building cars that are dedicated to this form of competition. I mean, what went into your planning, and what conversations did you have about building an engine that would survive this type of torture?
So originally, when we started doing the Burnout stuff, there's two classes that at first Cletus was only one to have events. So there's two classes. I couldn't afford to do the pro class, so I went into the open class, and I just pulled a 5.3 out of junkyard, just like every person does for drag racing. Nitrous Outlet actually came on board. Dave over there, he wanted to do a nitrous kit, and so we did a full nitrous kit on it, and I sprayed that thing for a full year. I mean, it took the abuse, surprisingly, but as we all get dumber, you know, I started spraying it more and more, and ended up just blowing it up. But this year, I won the last event down in Florida, which was awesome. It was a great time. But when you win the open class, you're not allowed to go back. You have to go up into the pro class. So I knew that once I did that, I had to upgrade big time. And I work at LME, one of the best engine building shops in the country for LS stuff. And so we built a very, very good short block for the bottom end. Callie's crank, Callie's rods, diamond pistons, got comp cam in it. I mean, we got all the good stuff in it. And then going to the valve train, I knew that we had to do something better, because last time I floated the valves, wrecked the valves and the pistons. Nothing of any of the builder's fault. We're beating the hell out of these things. I mean, I love drag racing and stuff, but you're going down a quarter mile, maybe the longest 10 seconds. The fast cars are doing 5-6 seconds, you know, and that's all you got to do. In burnouts, you're holding that thing at 8,000 RPM for at least a minute. You know, you have to do it past a minute, shorter than 2 minutes. So you really got to think it out. So my cylinder head guys over at Hooper's Heads, we just kind of went through and started talking about what we wanted to do for this engine. And so it's just a hydraulic roller, a little bit, I don't know, per se. It's just it's a good setup for a hydraulic roller. We put a heavy spring in it. We put a Pac 1209 spring, and it is good for high RPM. I mean, not crazy high RPM, but it's 8,000 plus. You know, I'm gonna try and keep it between 7 and 8. But when you got a methanol burning engine, it's not very easy to control it. I'm gonna be doing a lot of testing, maybe putting the throttle stop in there to try and get it to where I want. But there's a lot that goes into it that people don't think about, and I don't know. It's a lot, but I feel like I put this engine together to be exactly what it needs to be. I missed a couple events in the beginning of the year that kills me. I haven't missed an event in over 2 years, but you got to make the small sacrifices for the bigger picture, you know. So
what do you make of when Nate talks about more universal rules? Like, that is something that is near and dear our heart at Drag Illustrated. Like, we've worked, perhaps nobody more than Mike, John Sears, Lonnie Grimm. Like, there's been a world of people involved in establishing our rules for the World Series of Pro Mod. And like, one of our many dreams, or one of the North Stars that we are chasing, is trying to create a reunified pro modified rule set. Because what I would love to see happen, and I don't know that we maybe recognize the power that would come from everybody running similar rules. Like, instead of having all this segmented group of racers that, you know, Midwest Pro Mod Series has a set of rules, PDRA's got a set of rules, NHRA's got a set of rules, IHRA's got a set of rules, NMCA's got a set of rules, the West Coast stuff, the Northeast stuff, everybody has their own variation that's like built to their local community. And I understand the allure of that. But going back to what Nate was talking about, the importance of this, like, if we really want it to grow and we really want to scale it and we want to have more people involved, we need everybody running the same rules, or very, very close to them. I understand there is room for some nuance. Like, drag racing's unique in that it happens in all these different places at all these different times of the year. So you have to kind of consider those type of things. But getting close to a unified rule set would be monumental for the sport of drag racing, specifically pro modified. So how do you, like, let's get some conversation between you two. Like, so the rules, like, what are the established rules? Like, is it?
Well, I don't know that you'd
thing?
even call them rules. It's more like how you judge it. And it's
Yeah,
kind of more like right now it's basically you have guys taking a bunch of different approaches, to try to meet the same end goal, which, as far as I understand it, like Collin was saying, at least 1 minute, maximum of 2 minutes, don't blow up. And then these guys try to pop their tires at the end of the burnout, right? Like that's a desired outcome, like at the grand finale. Not too early, but
Right.
when you're kind of doing your grand finale, you want to just like, that's the send off right there. So there's like a lot of different, and I just being a part of that one event, I kind of learned at that event. But tell us like some of the stuff you're going for to achieve like the perfect score, or like what's the most desired outcome of the deal.
Okay, so the main thing you want to do is pop tires. I mean, if you don't pop tires, you're losing.
All right, so I was even
just how it
underselling
goes
that. Okay, so that's the main
pro,
thing.
yeah, at the pro level. So, kind of like you touched on, they want us to go past a minute. When I say they, I'm talking about the Cletus or the Burnout Rivals crew, which they adopted the Australian rules pretty much. I think they changed a couple little things, but I 100% agree. I would love if everybody would have the same rule set, because we're all trying to go for the same thing. There's certain events that, oh, the crowd judges, oh, other people do this, and it'd be really nice if we had one set of rules, because like we mentioned before, we put a lot of money into it. So if we could be aiming for the same thing, it'd be good. But the main thing is blowing tires. There's a bunch of different categories that you get judged on, and this isn't drag racing, so you're never going to make anyone happy. This is an opinion-based deal, which
that makes it challenging, man.
Yeah, it does.
And you got to be a showman a little bit too. Like I saw guys hanging out of the window as they're doing donuts and stuff. Like all that adds to it. Lights, sound, the whole deal.
Yeah, so the main, I would say, rules is just safety stuff. They just want you to have like fire suit and the safety aspect. But as far as the judging goes, the amount of smoke, the volume of smoke, how quick you make smoke, all that really plays into like almost half your score is the smoke. So you really want wheel speed. And to get wheel speed, you put a gear set in your rear end that's going to give you the most wheel speed. But to do the wheel speeds of almost 200 miles an hour, you need a lot of horsepower. So this engine's got well over 1,000 horsepower to do this, and everyone's like, why do you need 1,000 horsepower to do a burnout, dude? It's like, have you ever loaded down a motor to do 200 miles an hour with a burnout? Like it takes a lot of power to do that. Probably doesn't take over 1,000, but I mean, right at 1,000 you can do pretty heavy. But using the pad all the way, you want to make sure that you use the pad. If you're just sitting there in a circle, it's not good points. If they have little shoots in the pad, that's another thing. The pad layout's different a lot of times. So you just want to use the pad as much as possible. Try and get as close to the walls as you can without hitting the walls. I mean, you don't want to wreck your
it don't
shit,
stop.
But
Don't we saw a couple guys
stop.
like nose up against the wall and just sit there and just melt it down. And actually the fans and stuff were like booing, like woo, like this, that instantly gets them off track there. So that's a big no.
I think honestly, and Collin, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, one of the biggest discrepancies from when I saw the burnout stuff starting to take off was at a lot of events. People that won seemed to be the ones that really destroyed their cars the most. And I think that was something that I think as a whole, we've all been collectively trying to go a different direction with. Because I mean, the thing is, when you got a guy that has a junkyard build and he doesn't care anything about the vehicle, if he knows that he can go slam it into the wall at 30 miles an hour sideways and get the win, they're going to do that. Well, that's one of those things that it doesn't take skill to wreck your shit. So
it doesn't. In the beginning of doing the burnout stuff, you were getting points for hitting the wall. That's just how it was. But now, if you're allowed to hit the wall now, but the way that they judge it is if you see the barrier move. That's how hard they're hitting these walls. Like these are concrete barriers that you see at a drag strip. So if you see the barrier move, you hit it too hard. And I've hit a couple barriers, but my stuff is so light that it doesn't really move it. I try not to hit stuff. I have a lot of money in my stuff. I don't want to hit it. But there was one in Bristol where I couldn't see at all, and I just was hauling ass down the straight because it's like the biggest pad that we ever had, and I just slammed the wall. I was in smoke. I didn't see anything, and I slammed the wall. I don't have a bumper or anything on my stuff. It's open wheel. It's a rat rod. So the wheel just hit the wall, and it buckled the wheel, and it bent, and the whole thing's shaking. But I never stopped. I kept going, and that show was pretty fun. It was a good time.
What about the entrance? So that's one of the things, like if there's a shoot or not, right?
Yeah.
Nate, does your event have a shoot?
Yeah, Nate had a shoot.
Yeah, so we were up kind of against a different challenge this year. So this year our burnout competition took place essentially around the 8th mile of Carolina Dragway on the drag strip. So obviously, with that being said, we were kind of in a situation where our starting point was where the track did become concrete. So if anybody knows anything about asphalt, if you stay in place too long, burning out on asphalt, whether there's rubber there or not, you're going to put a hole in the track. And obviously that's not something we wanted. So we had some very strict policies on, like, really you had to kind of keep moving. And the correct me if I'm wrong, Collin, but it's more or less the tip in is something that is highly judged in a lot of them. So
Yeah.
being able to come in, and especially at speed, and just kind of throw the vehicle in, that's one that we've seen that definitely the guys that really have got it together, they can do something crazy with those.
Yeah, the tip-ins are definitely what wows the crowd, I mean, if you go in there and just do a small 20 to 30 mile an hour tip in, it's okay, but a lot of these guys are at the big pads hitting at 60, 70 miles an hour. I mean, imagine doing that with a 1,000 horsepower rig and then just flipping it sideways, I mean, that's the thing that you're trying to do. And it takes a lot of speed away once you do that, but you still got to be careful not to hit the pad. And we've had a couple of comps at the drag strips and stuff, but that's another thing that people wouldn't even think about, the difference between concrete and asphalt. I have a different set of tires that I use if it's a concrete pad versus an asphalt pad. Asphalt tears up your tires about 20 seconds quicker than a concrete will, depending on how coarse the concrete is. But yeah, I change tires out depending on where I'm going. If it's just a parking lot in the pits of a drag strip and I walk over there and it's super super coarse, I'm putting the big tires on that have more tread.
What tires do you use? Like what size, what brand, what like compound, or is that secret?
Oh, he's gonna give out the secrets.
Yeah,
That's probably like asking Alan Johnson for his damn tune-up, and I just realized that.
Yeah. To be honest, last year I don't really care. I use Amazon tires last year. I mean, you want to use, it's more of a size deal. It's not really, I mean, the compound's good because the softer the compound, the more thick the smoke is, but the size is really what does it. I just want to get more tread on there for the different parts, but I just use Amazon tires. I'm not that secretive about it. A bunch of people just buy stuff off Marketplace, but I use a brand new set of tires every single time. A lot of guys just can't afford that, which is fine. I'm not bragging. These tires are $50 a piece, but I like to be consistent with my stuff. I know that if I use the same tire and it popped in this amount of time, it's going to do the same thing, So I try to be as consistent as I can. Same as drag racing. I mean,
Are you, one of the things you said in that YouTube video, and I'll send it, JT, you may link it in the comments because it's actually worth folks watching. But one of the things you mentioned in there was like driving ability and like what it takes to do it. Because I think it was at the end of the video, maybe you're like, I don't know if I'm, I feel like I've got the power now to compete at a high level. I don't know if I'm as good of a driver as some of these guys. And I thought to myself, like, what are we talking about, Collin? You know what I mean? Like, but hearing what you've said now with the tip ins and the speed, I'm just kind of curious, like, what is happening with you in the car when you're doing this? First question is, are you monitoring time or are you doing it all by feel or like just trying to keep track in your head?
All by feel. You can feel when the tires pop. So I mean, I just go until the tires pop, and from there you just work on not hitting a wall. So a lot of the guys make it look easy. A lot of the professionals make it look very easy. But my biggest thing was, I'm hoping this year it'll be easier with a bigger power. Is when you're lacking power and you're trying to do a burnout, your rig's trying to make traction the whole time. So when you're trying to make traction, it's trying to push it forward. And my setup's pretty bad, to be honest, because my axle is about 3 feet in front of my motor. Everybody's front end and tires are right under the motor. Yeah, right under the motor. So the motor's putting a bunch of weight on there. But when I have my front end forward, it's just like drag racing. The more weight you have in the back, the more traction you got in the back. You don't want traction in the back for burnout stuff. You want all your traction to be in the front so you can steer it and put it where you want. My biggest thing when I was doing it is I'd hit the brakes and the tires just start locking up and you just start moving forward. So I noticed that if you could not hit the brakes ever, that's the best. That's going to be your best run. If you can just keep pointing it where you want, that's kind of where the best run's going to be. But it gets hard. I mean, it doesn't look hard until you're in there and then you start doing donuts and you go to turn it one way and it just keeps doing the donuts the other way and you're like, what is happening? But it's just time, but that's one thing that I've had the most challenge with is just testing. Like, who's gonna let me take a 1,200 horsepower blown alcohol rig and go destroy their parking lot. You know what I mean? It's not awesome. So when I can get a test session, it's awesome. The last week that Houston Raceway Park was there, they let me come over and just absolutely obliterate the parking lot. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, we don't need any racetracks closing down, but if anybody's got a spot, you know, Collin may need a number, right? Like something that's going away or whatever, some construction coming up, let us know, because my boy needs a place to test. But is anybody getting crazy with like modulating brakes or like really exotic brake setups? Like does, you know, even a handbrake or just having a different setup for your front brakes versus is anybody doing stuff like that?
For the most part, everybody just deletes their rear brakes. You just usually run front brakes. As far as anything fancy, not too much that I know of. A lot of guys are just putting manual brakes on there and then having just a big tire up front. It's kind of the opposite from drag racing. You want as much traction as possible. I used to have the skinny Mickey Thompsons on there because my rat rod used to kind of look like a drag setup. You know, I originally kind of built it to go drag racing. So I instantly realized those were not the tire to use. So I bought like a road race type tire to put on the front, and that helped out a lot and stuff. But yeah, it's just.
I was just curious because, like, so this in a damn farm truck and Asian ended up beating me to it. But one of JT and Blake and I had, and we should bring those guys on here because it would be actually funny to talk about. But many moons ago, I had this idea that I wanted to set the Guinness World Record for the longest burnout. Right.
Oh, okay.
So
it's in the intro, right? It's still part of it's in the intro. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, and JT and Blake helped me on this a ton. So like I reached out to the Guinness World Records people and I was like, hey, what does it take to like pull that? I want a freaking plaque on the wall in my office with a Guinness World Record. And I had looked through their book and I'd looked around on YouTube, and there was a record set, I think, in Australia for like the largest amount of people to do a simultaneous burnout. And then there was like the longest time, I think, a burnout, perhaps. And there was a handful of like really weird ones, but I was kind of like, I'm going, dude, I want to do a long burnout. Like I want to cover some ground. Like there was no established record for the longest burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back and forth with the people in New York at Guinness World Records, and they basically, and this is actually kind of interesting information. So anybody can apply for a world record, like submit a case for a world record. And they kind of have varying degrees, it would seem, of like how quickly they consider it, and then the amount of research that they do to validate it, right? And I'm sure it depends on how many people are attempting this record or whatever. But basically, they told me that anybody can submit one, and we'll get to it when we get to it. There was an expedited deal that was, I think Blake might remember. Wasn't it like $1,000? I think it was like for $1,000 they would expedite the review of your evidence, is which basically what they call it. So I'm like, I'm in for $1,000. Like if I can get this record set for $1,000 and get that plaque, like I'm here for it. Right. So anyways, the other option, which is interesting, is I think it was $10,000. And I tried to get some sponsors and like, hey, we should go do this, but I got busy on other projects. But anyways, for $10,000, the Guinness World Record people will come to you and they will validate it on the spot. So it's kind of, so they will actually fly a judge in, bring the plaque, all those type of things, and they will certified validate the record on the spot. And that's when you see, like, there was actually one of the companies that gave me some inspiration on this. I can't remember. I think is Vulcan a motorcycle brand, JT? Valkyrie. No, whatever. One of those motorcycle brand. I'm not a bike guy. But they had done a deal, and they actually, I think, did it at Cletus's. It was before Cletus owned Sarasota Speedway or whatever it's called. It used to be called. But they brought in one of their motorcycles, and they hosed the track down with water, and he did a continuous burnout for like, I don't know, it was a long time, like multiple laps around this track. And they did it as a publicity stunt. Like it was brilliant. Like they bring in the Guinness World Records people and they filmed it and they created a YouTube video about it. And it was this, I'm sure well-received publicity stunt, but I probably still should go do that. But anyways, JT, we had this $5,000 Fox Body Mustang that we bought from one of our drag illustrated photographers, James Sisk. Shout out to my boy down in Southern Missouri. He had this 88, 89 GT Mustang with a 5.0 in it with a cam and headers, nothing at all. I mean, the thing probably made 250 horsepower, right? Best case scenario. But it'll do a burnout. And it had a line lock, which I literally, whenever he told me, he goes, hey man, do you know anybody who buy this Mustang I got? And I'm like, yeah, does it have a line lock? He goes, yeah, it's got a line lock. I'm like, I'll buy it. So I bought it basically because it had a line lock. But JT and I went out, and it was so funny because we were testing, right? And we were going out like in the middle of the day on these old back roads way outside of town, and we were testing. We had a drone flying, we had a survey wheel. We're out there like doing all the Blake was out there getting multiple angles of all the burnouts because I wanted to be able to submit all this evidence and have it be rock solid. So we went out on like a random Tuesday, and I did a 867 foot burnout, right? Like, and to your point, when you've only got 200 some odd horsepower, it's hard to keep those tires spinning. You know what I mean? Like, so I went to Buck Brothers, slammed on a cheap set of, you know, whatever junk tires my dad had on the shelf, slammed a set of tires on it. We roll outside of town, and I do this 867 foot burnout. We film JT rolling the surveyor wheel. We take all these pictures. We got video footage, and we submit it all to Guinness World Records. And I'm like, I got this shit in the bag. Like, I'm about to have me a plaque on the wall. And it took them like 3 or 4 days, and they get back to me and they send me a YouTube video, and they said, hey, we found this video online of some dude in Europe with like a twin turbo 1500 horsepower BMW doing this crazy nasty rolling burnout on the interstate over there somewhere, right? And I mean, it's like it was impressive. Like, I saw the video, I'm like, oh shit, I might be in trouble. Like, but they literally didn't give me the record, and like, just because they're like, hey, we don't know how exactly long this burnout in this YouTube video was, but we think it was over 1,000 feet. So I said, so what you're telling me is my 867 is not enough. And he said, what we would like you to do is a 1,500 foot burnout. If you could do a 1,500 foot burnout, we would have no problem, no question whatsoever, giving you the record. And I said, do you know how long 1,500 feet is? Like, this is a long way. I said, do you realize traditional drag racing, like the longest distance we race is 1,320 feet. So like, I don't even know where I'm going to go to do that. And I sure as hell know my Mustang probably doesn't have that in it. I did think about rigging up just like a fuel pump and spraying water on the rear tires, like just putting it on a momentary switch on a button on the steering wheel, where when it started to pull the motor down, I could just hose them.
Don't be giving away our secrets, man. God dang.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I was going to do. So Aeromotive, Steve Matusik at Aeromotive at the time, he still owned the place. They were going to set me up with like a water pump kit, like a water injection kit that I would just run long lines to the rear tires. But anyways, I ended up selling the car back to James so that he could give it to his son whenever his son got his driver's license. So I don't have the Mustang anymore. But then on an episode of the Farm Truck and Asian show, they went to an airport with that hearse. Right. It's got like a blown big block in it or whatever. Yeah, and I don't know how long the burnout was that they did, but I'm telling you right now, in front of God and the World Wide Web, I'm taking that record. Like, I'm taking that record.
He needs help, guys. He needs help from an actual burnout expert.
Right. Let's set that record, Collin.
Yeah.
Let's do like we need our name on. I mean, that's 1,000% what we need is we need a Guinness World Record for the longest burnout. So real quick before we cut you loose, Collin, what's next? I know you got this brand new bullet in Helen, the rat rod. What's the next outing like on the burnout schedule? What's up next?
So just like I was talking about, I'm part of Skids for Kids. So Streetcar Takeover in Dallas is June 1st. So we're going to be bringing it out there for June 1st. We're going to be kind of throwing on a burnout contest. I don't really know what the like prizes are or anything, but when I do the Streetcar Takeover ones, I don't really do it for that. But then we got another kind of a secret deal that we're going to go to the following day on Sunday. So, but yep, that Streetcar Takeover is going to be the next one. And then after that, there's a Power Cruise event in July. Up in Minnesota. That one's pretty big. All the Australians are putting that one on. So that's another thing to throw out there is the reason this has grown so much is because we have about 30 to 40 Australians shipping their cars over to the States to do burnouts because they believe in the American dream and they want to do burnouts in America. So that's something that we should touch on. That's pretty incredible. So
it gave me chills. It doesn't take, as I spent the first half hour of the show talking about, I'm a pretty emotional guy right now. But it's true, man. I mean, you think about people shipping vehicles across the ocean to go do burnouts. I mean, that's spectacular. Is there one of the things that I've seen watching all the old videos on YouTube and stuff is in Australia? I mean, it's like pro mod cars.
Oh yeah.
Right. Do you think we'll get there sooner rather than later? I mean, what
We
like
used to actually the big pro mod guys, like Victor Bray and whatever, they had like a
2 cars.
yeah, like a clone, and they would try to make it look like the actual pro mod, and then it would just come out just slinging and going crazy doing a burnout, and that was a huge thing back in like the 90s and early 2000s for sure.
I mean, we're pretty much there. We're close. I mean, there's no real reason to put a pro mod motor, but I mean, blown alcohol. I mean, that's pretty much pro mod. I mean, we're not making the power that the pro mod guys are making, but I mean, these are full blown alcohol rigs. I mean, just this year we have, I think, 5 or 6 more new rigs, and then all the Australians are bringing theirs, and over half of them are blown. So I mean, the promoters in Australia should probably be sweating right now because all of their top tier burnout guys are gone. They're all in America now, and it's just because I don't know, maybe politics or something that's going on in Australia. I'm not sure, but they all just want to come to America to do the American thing, and just a bunch of people are popping up doing legitimate burnout contests, and it's awesome. So I do see it growing, and it's going to be big. I mean, just this year from last year is over quadruple the size of what's been going on. So the year after that, I can only imagine what's going to happen. But
what do you okay, closing question, and this is Nate and you both. Can we put on a burnout deal at World Series of Pro Mod next spring?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, lock it in. I'll pay $10,000 to win it. Done.
Nice.
Done.
I'll
Done.
We pay $10,001.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to pay. All right, so I'm not gonna Donald Long you and pay 10,000 too. I'm not gonna Donald Long you, but I will. I'm gonna have to one up you, but it'll be presented by Nate Prater. That's what it is. Streetcar Bragging Rights is putting on
just presented by Nate Prater.
No, Burnout for Kids South. Burnout for Kids South. That's what we'll do.
Where are we gonna do it? You can't do it on the track.
Where can we do it?
We got to do it maybe over. Well, no, Cletus does his own
Freedom Factor.
But Cletus
get a hold of Cletus. He'll 100% let you guys do that. One thing to throw out there for payouts and stuff. As you guys are promoters, drag racing, like I said, it's a clear cut. Whoever wins. With it being so close in judging, you're going to get a lot more turnout. Just being a competitor myself, if you pay down a little bit, Cletus pays all the way to 5th place, and I mean I can get second place. So his is 6,000, 2,000, 1,500, 1,000, 500, and he's mostly doing that just to try and grow the sport. I mean, we should dedicate all the sport growing to him. If I'm being honest, you
got to get some good judges too. That's key.
Yes, yeah.
People. That
our judges are going to be our World Series of Pro Mod competitors. So we'll pick like
all of them.
All 65 of them. No, but we will.
Math is going to be a bitch, but we'll figure it out.
We'll get
the scorecards are going to be expensive.
we're going to get. I want to do this. So we'll get it okayed with Cletus. I'll call Vic when we get off the show and get Victor Alvarez to put the pieces in place. And do it as part of World Series of Pro Mod week, because we have some significant plans to expand that thing. And I really want that event to be kind of like a week-long happening where, we're racing on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there's other things happening, to really create a festival vibe where it's a destination event. Like most everybody that comes down there comes down the weekend before. It stays all week long. We got people that come over from overseas, all around the world, that come to this event, and I want to entertain them every step of the way. I want there to be something happening at the racetrack significant every single day. So this is a perfect fit. And I mean, I want to get to a point where, and I bet this will happen sooner rather than later, where y'all are getting some appearance fees. Like I keep going back to like what the guys at Street Outlaws and No Prep Kings have built. No matter where you land in the drag racing world, the coolest thing that they have done is they've created a world where guys are getting paid to show up at the races. They're not going there like to hoping they win, hoping they qualify so they can get a little bit of bread that can put some diesel in the tank. I mean, they have created an environment where the Ryan Martins, Lizzie Museys, Jeff Lutzes, the list goes on, Disco Deans, Justin Swanstrom, all these people that are a part of that scene, they're getting paid to show up. They're getting a check in the bank account before they unload the car. And that's where I want to get with World Series. Like that's where I want to take the sport, where it's not so much about who's willing to pay what entry fee wise. I want to get to a point where we're selling television rights. We've got streaming rights. We've got sponsorships. We've got all this stuff. So that our talent is being taken care of the way that they should be. Now, granted, that's a process and it's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight, but I think we've got to keep chasing that North Star. And I would be the same way. Like maybe what we do is it's an invitational and we invite like take that 10 grand that I just donated and say, hey, we're going to invite the 10 baddest mofos on the planet. We're going to pay them all $1,000 to show up, and then get a sponsor to step up and put some on top. You know what I mean? Like, all these guys are going to get paid to come.
Mhm.
We want the best dudes. Let's make this happen. The World Series. I'm going to actually go buy a couple of domain names real quick while we're on the, if anybody knows me, the Wes's nuances as I own about, what's it called? Real estate prospector. Is that a thing? Where you go buy real estate? Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm prospector. I'm a domain name prospector. So anytime I have an idea, you can get a domain on GoDaddy right now for $9.99.
Actually,
$10.
While you're talking, I just snuck in there and bought it.
If you bought what I think you bought,
Sell it to over 10 grand.
I'm going to kill you.
I'll invoice you. I'll put it on my next invoice.
Not surprised. Not surprised. But anyways, I think we should make that happen. So do I got a commitment from you two now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
All right,
Yeah,
lock it in.
definitely. Any help you
All right.
need, the Skits for Kids will definitely like to be part of it. So for sure.
Well, we'd love to have you guys be a part of it. Collin, thank you so much for your time. You better get your ass back to work.
Yeah.
Happy for you. Great to have you on here. Appreciate the conversation, because it's like, this is the fun stuff, talking about things we don't know anything about, learning a little something. And we also just created something. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we just created the biggest burnout competition in the history of the known universe. I think that's where we're headed.
Right,
And we need to go buy that domain as well. So Collin, thank you so much, man. Congrats on everything. We can't wait to see what you're doing next. And I'll come out. I plan on being at Streetcar Takeover for the Dallas event. So I'll come track you down in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's an awesome opportunity, and had a good time. So thank you very much.
Good, man. Whatever you want,
Thanks,
we'll try to do
Collin.
it for you. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, Nate, I want to get back to talking about Streetcar. I mean, obviously, your whole system came to be like on the back of Burnout for Kids, and this car show turned into a Burnout competition that you donate $13,000 worth of toys to Toys for Tots, and another, like, I just love guys that are like selfless like that. But Streetcar bragging rights. I mean, let's talk about the future of that. I mean, where do you see? I mean, on the heels of 3 successful events that continue to grow and continue, you keep upping the ante. Like, I love the way you do your VIP stuff. I love the way you do the pyro, the fireworks, all these sideshow attractions, and everything that you do to make that event what it is. You know, what's on your vision board, man? Like, what's keeping you up at night when it comes to the future of Streetcar bragging rights?
I mean, I think just in the drag racing industry, period. I mean, Wes, we've talked about this a few times, but I think one of the great things about drag racing, which is also one of the big downfalls, is how much of it is. There is so many variations of drag racing, from every different form, and you don't see that in a lot of professional style sports. There's, your amateur level, your minors, and you build up to a professional level. But, we have so many subcategories that it's a lot. And it's hard to get people to focus on, certain areas of it. And some people that focus on just this style of racing have no care about the other styles. So I think, what Brian was talking about, with bringing the drag and drive to the NHRA, stuff like that, it's bridging gaps. I think that's really what everyone in the industry needs to focus on, is bridging gaps. We need to make sure that we can try to bring in and involve as many people in the sport at all different levels, at all different types of racing. And, that's one thing we've really focused on last year with Streetcar bragging rights. Whenever we approached Donald Long, was to bring our class to one of his events. And, in our opinion, was being able to advertise our race on one of the biggest stages in drag racing. It's a huge billboard for us. And, that one has paid off tenfold. We were able to put our brand and put our name in front of people that would have never looked, at our style of racing.
Agreed, 100%. And it's a challenge. Like, that's JT. We literally talked about it for an hour on the phone yesterday, that it's like one of the biggest challenges we face as a community. And it's like a blessing and a curse. I don't know if you've watched the Garth Brooks documentary on Netflix, but he always does this thing with his hands. It's a blessing and a curse. And he's a real weirdo. What a psychopath. I think Tom Segura's got him pegged. I think he might be a serial killer. But anyways, I'm a big Garth fan. Don't take me wrong.
He's making it hard.
He is making it pretty hard right now, but I digress. But it is a challenge that we face, like a blessing and a curse, that we have so many different segments. I mean, like the theme of this show could be like, what's not hot in drag racing? Like the shit's all on fire, right? I mean, all of it. Like, and that's an awesome place to be. But to your point, Nate, the challenge is that like the talent, the stardom, the needle movers, the Alex Taylors, the Cletus McFarland, they're spread amongst all those classes. And it's hard to harness it at times. You know what I mean? Because there's just so many people that have impact, but they're not all completely aligned, and there's not a lot of places where they overlap. I mean, I think the most special thing about World Series of Pro Mod is bringing all those people, all these racers that are kind of regionalized, right? Like you've got all these guys that race almost exclusively on the East Coast, or almost exclusively in Texas, or almost exclusively in the Midwest. And the World Series of Pro Mod represents this like rare opportunity to bring them all together to compete against one another. It's hard to do that when you've got, I mean, Stevie Jackson is like an example of someone who has masterfully bounced around. You know, like he goes and runs 315 radial race in RVW and is right at the top. He goes run Pro Mod, he's right at the top. Whatever he chooses to do, he's successful in, and he's been willing to bounce around. And I think a lot of the stardom that he has built over the years is rooted in that, like going and building a following at Lights Out, going and building a following at House of Hook as a grudge racer, right? And getting those people to be invested in him, and wherever they go, he follows. JT and I talk a lot about, we remember specifically when Stevie Jackson made the move from RVW and Outlaw Pro Mod Racing to NHRA competition. And I had never seen so much buzz on social media about someone racing Pro Mod in the NHRA as we did when he did, because he brought all those fans from those other segments with him. And it was like, I thought it was such a magical moment, because you've got these people that likely never log on to NHRA TV or likely never follow along with the Pro Mod in NHRA, but they were because their guy was there. So like that is one of the challenges, because I want to see it all flourish. I really do. And I think that there is room for all these things to be successful. But to your point, and JT's perpetual point, in any other sport, there's like, you know, there's junior, you know, there's kids golf, and then there's like amateur golf, and then there's farm league. I mean, like baseball is a great example. There's little league, there's high school ball, there's traveling ball, there's college ball, there's minor league ball, there's, you know what I mean? Like, and you're working up, but we're all playing the same game, right? Like, you know, maybe there's some nuances. The bases aren't as far apart, or the pitcher's not as far away from home plate, but the rules are the same. You know what I mean? 3 strikes, you're out. And that's one of the challenges that really exist in our space, is like, how do we get all the attention in a singular location at certain times? It can't be that way all the time, but we do need to be working toward that, in my opinion.
And it's also, I mean, it's just the sheer amount of events. I mean, I talk about this amongst other promoters. I try to work with them as much as possible, you know, so we're not overlapping events. But the reality is, we talk about it all the time, there is 52 weekends in the year, and there are thousands of established drag racing events. And
every weekend
tough.
there's so many going on. Like we have our conference call every Monday, and we try to talk about some of the racing that happened over the weekend. And every call we're like, well, there was this, there was that, there was this, and then we inevitably leave something out, because there is just so much going on. But I think that, you know, comparing it to actual stick and ball sports, they have all those levels, but really the only entertainment, you only go to pay to watch college, you know, let's say college basketball or the NBA. You're not going to high school or little league and all the other stuff. And not saying that each class of drag racing, you know, fits in this hierarchy, but you really have to have that entertainment value. You have to build the characters and have to have the draw for the fans. Otherwise, it does just become kind of like a participant driven thing that's not on the radar, which would be like your lower level of stick and ball sports. So you do have that separation.
Track, though. I mean, you have, you know, people start out go-karts,
but it has to be entertaining.
Outlaws,
the key
midgets,
to it is
you know, and then they keep moving up, but they're all working I mean, if you went up and asked one, what they're working towards, it would be to run in NASCAR, right?
But there's probably no fans in the stands at those lower levels. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
but if
Chili
it's some kind of
Bowl,
crazy,
right,
because that's entertainment. They've hyped it up. They've got ton of coverage around it, streaming video. They've got celebrities competing in it. It has to have something to make it entertaining. If not, it's just completely.
No, I agree. I just think that we water it down so much that like you have 2 stars over here, you have 2 stars over here, you have 2 stars over here, and it gets watered down to the casual fan. I think it's not near as like exciting. Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. It's not near as entertaining with all these guys spread out all over the place and not in one category.
But we also let them make their own categories too. A lot of
too
times.
much.
It's like
you don't build.
I'm going to make my own deal.
You make a new class for your car,
and you don't do that in other sports.
No.
Everybody does have to funnel into playing the big boy game or whatever. And we're just like, we're just going to go do our own deal and just make a completely. Somebody on our show recently called it a micro record. Who said that? It was a great term that somebody's going to go claim their micro record. Oh, it was Alex Laughlin actually said that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great term that like kind of speaks to what we're saying here. It's like, well, if I can't go have the big record, I'm just going to make my own micro record and be happy with that.
Well, I mean, if you walk into the pits of any drag race, like, you know what? The best place to do it is at a radial tire race, any of them, or at a drag and drive event. Because you walk up and introduce yourself to a racer and they're standing beside whatever their car is. The first thing they're going to tell you, like, hey, I'm Jim from Darlington, South Carolina, and this is my Mustang, which is the fastest 8.5-inch tire, single turbo, small block Ford, manual transmission, ethanol burning car in the world.
In color green.
Yeah. In green.
Yeah, that's color green. Yeah.
And I love it because that's what drives them. You know what I mean? And I totally respect it. And it's the reason we have the top 8 in the back of Drag Illustrated for damn near 20 years or whatever, is that we know how important those records are and how important it is to know where you're at in the lay of the land and how you rank and what it takes,
I have micro records hanging on my wall. I mean, it's stuff that we all, push for and drive for, and it's what keeps us going with this stuff.
Yeah,
it is. But it's like, how do you continue to foster that while also simultaneously developing a clear marquee attraction? Because I think it's a tough conversation to have, and I guess that's why we're the ones having it in here in front of the world. But there really does need to be some consideration put into like the growth of our sport. While our sport is thriving in many ways, like at a grassroots level. I mean, there's 420 drag strips operating in North America right now, many of which are successful endeavors, right? There's new tracks being built. And of course, if you want to paint a negative picture, it's easy to find pictures of tracks getting torn down, and everybody loves a fucking sob story. So everybody rallies around, bad news. But I mean, the fact is, Scott Higgs, Blake Housley, Mark Mickey, all these guys up in Kansas City just spent $20 million building a brand new drag strip, for a community that is starving for one. And they packed the place this weekend for Streetcar Takeover. So like, there's really great things happening you got guys, track operators like Vic Alvarez that are constantly investing in their facility. Like, there's some great things happening in our sport. And I single Vic out a lot because he's my boy. But I mean, it's true. I mean, he's not the only one. There are tons of people in this community that are pouring tons of resources into drag racing, into their facilities. And I think it's important that we find a way to foster that and continue to foster all these different burnout racing, radial racing, nostalgia racing, index. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, it would take us the rest of the day to identify all the different things that are happening. But what I think my team here at Drag Illustrated, like one of the things that is near and dear our heart is working towards creating a clear top, right? Like, because it depends on who you ask. Like, if you ask Ryan Martin, where do you think you are in like the drag racing pecking order, or like, where do you think he's going to tell you the freaking top. Right. Like, and I've asked him
where he's content to be, I mean, and that's what you're going to get with a lot of racers.
And I mean, but the same thing, you could ask that same question to Steve Torrance, Top Fuel. Those are the quickest and fastest cars on the planet Earth. He's going to tell you that I'm racing at the top. And I think that we've kind of got to, but it's interesting because Ryan Martin's probably making more money than anybody's made in the last several years racing Top Fuel. You know what I mean? Like, most of those operations are they're leaving, they're leveraging sponsorship relations, business to business relations, all these different things just to break even. Or you know what I mean, make it financially make sense. Then you got someone like Ryan who's racing a 3-second pro mod car essentially. And I mean, he's getting paid to show up. He's making money. He's got selling thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. I saw someone in the comments earlier, you got to sell t-shirts, boss. I mean, these guys are putting their kids through college on the back of t-shirt sales. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing thing. And I think what we're pursuing with World Series of Pro Mod, not to like let the cat out of the bag, but I believe it's like that shirt that Double O Shit Shows has that says Pro Mod's greater than Top Fuel. Like, I don't want to make this a personal thing, but I will tell you that I don't know. That's the pathway forward for this sport. Drag racing, I've said for many years, and I believe it is the great American motorsport. And there's so much opportunity. Like, we're all blessed to be walking around on such fertile soil. These opportunities really don't exist in many other sports. I mean, it's an amazing thing what lies ahead of us. But I do think we've got to recognize at some point that, and people can call me, call up for home cooking or whatever. Yes, I love pro mod racing, but it truly is the universal language of this sport. Pro mod drag racing is the only category of professional drag racing that is successfully contested around the world. I mean, there's been over 150 racers earn points in pro mod competition thus far in 2024. It's an amazing thing that's happening, and we have to find a way to harness that, in my opinion, and drive more interest in involvement from those big name stars. Like, if I had my druthers in 2025 at the World Series of Pro Mod, I'd have Alex Taylor in a car, I'll have Ryan Martin in a car, I'll have Steve Torrance in a car, I'll have Antron Brown in a car, I'll have Erica Enders in a car, and they will go do battle against the Jim Halsey, Spencer Hydes, Derek Wards, Kurt Steddings, Todd Tutteros, Ricky Smith.
And that's what would be the pinnacle. Like, if you could get all those guys.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, right. In the same vehicle. Like, the vehicle doesn't matter, right? A pro mod's fast. A pro mod is cool. It's a door slammer.
Still looks like a car.
Still relatable. But then it comes down to the driver. And then you got all these characters that you've spread out across all these different sanctioning bodies and all these different categories, all in the same place. And you can root, you can hang your hat on whoever you want to root for. I mean, that's
and with
what
the
we're
rule
missing.
set that we've created is you've got 32 cars that qualify, and every single one of them can win the race. Every single one of them, because they're all spread across 5/600ths of a second. And then it really is
Spencer Hyde showed that.
Yeah, Spencer Hyde showed it. I mean, and you've got to be like, that's what we want. I want Lyle Barnett, who's inarguably one of the best in the biz when it comes to the hired gun driver ranks. I mean, I want him going up there. Like, he's got to go. He can't go 040. He's going home. You've got to have a badass behind the wheel of the car. I think it will elevate the entire sport, and I promise you that that's where we're headed. Nate, dude, thank you so much for your time today, being a part of the conversation. I'm excited to see what happens next. You down? I've been sending some texts while we're on the stream, and I think I got Victor. I just said Vetus.
Vetus.
That's a merger. That's merging Victor and Cletus. Vetus.
Vetus.
I think I've got Victor and Cletus.
Vetus Motorsports Park.
Vetus Motorsports Park. But I think I've got them both on board for an invitational big money burnout competition next spring. So we need to be putting some pieces in place for that, man. And I want you to be involved in it. So thank you for everything. People don't maybe know that Nate really saved the day in a lot of ways for us at World Series of Pro Mod this year and last, but came down, helped us. Another volunteer spent his own money to come down and just shot some fan in the face with a T-shirt, broke his nose. I mean, he
moved trailers for us multiple times.
Trailers
this man can back a trailer right here. If you need a trailer moved in a tight spot, he's your guy. Sorry, Nate.
And his crab legs, the first year he was there, I took a plate back to Mike's room and just sat and cracked him while he's trying to sleep.
Those are from Nate. I remember that. Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was trying to sleep. So
I had probably late night. People ask me like, "Hey, is that guy with the beard doing the crawfish boil deal again?" I'm like, I didn't even know he did one. And they're like, "Oh yeah, man, it was like a total party all night long." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're definitely doing it again. I'll make sure Nate knows. It's but anyways, Nate, seriously, man, like what you're doing for our sport, your passion, your enthusiasm. I love when people match my energy, and you're one of those people. So thank you for that, and I can't wait to see what comes next for you, man. And I hope you know that we're on your side forever. So you're an ally, and we'll support you through thick and thin, buddy. So keep up the good work, and I can't wait to see what happens next for you.
Thank y'all for having me on.
JT, Mike, I want to give a quick shout out real quick to Mark Beatty, Redline Oil. I've not been doing a very good job with my script reads. I'm going to do better in the future, I promise. But huge shout out to our show sponsors, Redline Synthetic Oils, flowracing.com, all of our friends up in Oklahoma City at Stroud Safety. Thank you for what you do, making this show possible. We appreciate you guys more than you know. And we'll see you next Wednesday right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel and Facebook page. Help us spread the word. Click like, click share, tell a friend, send an email, whatever it takes, man. We need more people talking about drag racing through the week. It's easy to be excited on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it takes a little bit of extra effort to keep that up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's what we're here for. And thank you guys for being a part of it. Appreciate you.
Go do it so that Wes doesn't cry.
I didn't even I was really thinking I was going to work up a good cry on the show today.
He was
kind of
trying.
worried.
You got to use like
really
Visine or something,
Oh, I can do it on command. I mean, all I got to do is think about Sophia's second grade school pictures.
Try it.
Hold on, let me play a certain song. I've got some songs that put me into immediate tears. But we're not doing it. We're not doing it right now. Next Wednesday, stay tuned. Next Wednesday, I'll cry right here live on the internet.
See you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Later.